Yo, what up? This is D Knight, and you're listening to the Pardon the Interaction podcast. My oh my, we've had so much going on. For starters, in case you missed it, we've got a new addition to the Pardon Pie family, Tara Dublin. Make sure you go follow her on Twitter at Tara Dublin Rocks. Also, pick up a copy of her book while you're at it. Make her day, The Sound of Settling. A very fun and interesting read compared to the things we talk about on this podcast. But yeah, we're heading toward the do or die time for the 2024 election. Go ahead and hit up JoeBiden.com. Get that man like $1 a month or something. Help his campaign staff up and get prepared to try and save our democracy. And make sure to grab like one other person you know and tell them about the podcast. Make sure they subscribe and tune in every single week. We got a lot of things coming up for you this year. We need all the support that we can get. So if you do your part and help us grow our audience, we'll do our part and help elect Joe Biden in 2024 and save American democracy. And this is the Pardon the Interaction podcast.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey, this is D Knight.
This is Carol.
This is Ty.
And you're listening to the Pardon the Interaction podcast, which is going to be pretty ironic today because we're not going to talk about anything insurrection related. Ha, who'd have thought? Podcast about an insurrection. So we're going news free today. Don't worry. We're going to get you your news later this week. I promise. I know you need your fix with the constant, incessant political insanity, but today we're going to do something a little more lighthearted. You know, there's a lot of tough things going on in the world. We thought it'd be a nice change of pace. We just have a little fun today. So obviously this is a podcast. The hosting company that we use to host our podcast, like their platform, it's called Buzzsprout. It's a good company. They take good care. They have a lot of innovative features. They're working on some new things. More importantly, there was a podcast expo down in Florida this past weekend, and our hosting platform, Buzzsprout, was kind enough to give me a complimentary ticket to said expo. I won't tell you how much it cost, but it was a couple $100, and it was a very gracious gift. I took them up on the offer. So I decided to fly down to Orlando this past weekend and enjoy the festivities, as well as listen to a number of speakers talk about their experiences in the industry and give a bunch of tips and information on how to grow your podcast, how to make it better, tips and tricks if you want to monetize, how to go about that. But we won't get into all those nerd details, I suppose. Yeah, legal disclaimer here. Before I promote Buzzsprout, I would just like to say that they sent me the ticket of their own goodwill. They sent a number of hosts of podcasts that use their platform a free ticket to the podcast expo, just out of the goodness of their heart. So they also have their own branded podcast. It's called Buzzcast. If you can imagine where they got the buzz from, it's from the Buzzsprout. And they just create a podcast. They have a number of their own employees who host the show. And in that show, one of the things they talk about is value for value. Just the idea that you can create value or give value to others. And just people will altruistically reciprocate. Like give value without the expectation necessarily of getting anything back return. And it just creates a dynamic where people will come together and create value for each other and just kind of try to make, well, in this case, the industry a little better. But in general, just if we all took that approach, it would inevitably make society a little better. So since they were so kind to send me the ticket, I just wanted to give them a shout out, show my appreciation.
Buzzsprout.
Let's go, Buzzsprout. Yeah, so if you're thinking
Buzzsprout, hosting a podcast you love.
Oh, they're gonna love that. Yeah, so if you're thinking of starting your own podcast, perhaps I would highly recommend Buzzsprout. They are great people, and I'll get to more on that in a moment. It's a
and
great
I'm available
company.
for voiceover work. No, I can do a British accent. Okay, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so I recommend highly using their service. If you don't know what you're doing, it's very simple, streamlined, straightforward. They make it so simple that like it's not quite idiot proof, but almost. But they also have a lot of great features, and like I just can't recommend them highly enough. So yeah, let me talk about the trip.
How was your trip, D?
Why, thank you for asking.
Tell
Carol.
us about your trip. Yeah.
Carol, my trip was quite delightful, let me tell you.
Delightful.
Well, first of all, I flew there
Delightful.
on Spirit. Unlike Buzzsprout, I can highly recommend that you do not fly Spirit unless you have to. I won't get into details.
Soul plane, fam, was a soul plane.
Oh man, it's like Soul Plane with even lower budget. I'm sorry, Spirit. I know you're probably highly looking forward to sponsoring the podcast, and I just give that opportunity.
We reject your sponsorship. Absolutely not.
We'll still take your money, but we're going to make fun of your company.
That's what
Yeah, and what it reminded me of is like, okay, you remember
well, you're forgetting
that guy.
We're gonna charge Spirit $200 to talk about their
Yeah, we're going to charge
but it's going
them
to be a $400 fee if they want to have the option for us to not make those comments negative.
Right. Well, okay. That's totally fair. Or we
And
can
if they have a bag, $500. Sorry, go on, D.
we can just totally edit all of this out for $1,000 flat fee.
Oh.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, what it reminded me of is Chris Christie's niece being on like the Spirit flight, being like, do you know who I am? Bitch, you on Spirit. And after having flown Spirit for the first time, I just like can't, like, if you're on Spirit, you're not allowed to say, do you know who I am?
You can't
I'm
act
just
like
going to put it, yeah. Yeah, you are hereby forbidden from making those kinds of comments. Anyway, moving on. So just wanted to get that out of the way. Spirit, you did all right. I mean, but like, man, y'all got to do better than this. Like, one of the problems was like the ticket is cheap and that's great, but like you're like, all right, I'm going to Orlando and I got like, I'm going to a conference, so I need to kind of dress up slightly. And like, all right, I need to check a bag, and the fucking check bag was more expensive than the ticket. Come on, guys, what are we doing here? What are we doing?
My joke would have been better after you said that had I not interrupted you. Where's Carol being a dick?
We're definitely not going to get a Spirit sponsorship, huh?
Fuck Spirit Airlines.
That's all right, Delta.
I never fly them.
Delta will hook us up for sinking the competition. All
I
right.
wouldn't crash into them with Delta's cockpit.
All right. Anyway, so on to the Podfest Expo. So it was a great event. Like, they had a number of speakers. As a matter of fact, so the way it was set up, it was in this gigantic hotel with like a number of like conference rooms.
Yeah.
Set up for like individual speakers, and like each room had like a circuit of speakers focused around like a general topic, and they would get into their own specific takes and giving advice and asking questions and all that. It was fantastic. It was so many speakers, there was no way for you to attend every event. It was like 5 or 6 rooms or so. And then they had a speaker come and talk for, 20 minutes at a time or so, over the course of like 8 or 9 hour stretch. So it was a lot. If you haven't been to a podcast expo and you're in the business or you're thinking about joining, I highly recommend you go attend one of these. You might, at the very least, meet some incredible people, which I did, and you might learn a lot, which I also did.
Awesome.
So, shout out to Podfest. Y'all were dope. It was from Thursday until Sunday afternoon. I left Saturday. It was just, it was great, but I had to get up out of there. I needed like one day to myself before I got back to reality. Had to go back to work, but had a great time. So while I was there, Buzzsprout, of course, on Thursday evening, they had a little meet and greet at the hotel wine bar, which was fantastic. They had all the Buzzsprout hosts who they sponsored, who happened to attend the event, just hang out, have some drinks, shoot the shit. It's a fantastic time. Even though there were only, it was maybe 20 of us or so. along with the Buzzsprout employees. I met this fantastic guy named Albin. He's also a host on Buzzsprout's branded podcast, Buzzcast. Incredibly charming and funny individual. Highly recommend you listen to their pod. I'll try and put that in the show notes, by the way. He was fantastic. Oh my God. He was. So we were hanging out. And he's like, oh yeah, just bring some drink. He's like talking to the hostess. Yeah, just bring some drinks. What would you like? Oh, like, I don't know. Let's go with like 20 margaritas. So like at the bar, like the bartender is looking like, holy shit. So she's like, hey boss, I'm gonna need you to come down here and help. So the guy, the manager, the supervisor at the wine bar is like behind the bar, and there's like a whole line of glasses, and he's just like bottle, juice, blah blah blah, and he's just like going down the line with the tequila and the sour mix, and he's like doing it the fuck up at the bar. It's pretty fucking incredible.
I love Flair. Oh.
Yeah, my man was dope. Crushed it. Got them drinks out, and then the album was like, shit, let's go. Let's do it up some more. It's like mojitos for everyone. So like next on the list, you're just passing mojitos around, and then beers. So we are okay. That's a little bit more work. I feel sorry for whoever had to make those. It's unfortunate he didn't, consider like bartending etiquette. Like the more drinks you order, the simpler they have to be. Like the muddled mint and the mojito, like that's a lot of work. Albin, in case you're listening,
at a wine bar,
something to keep. Well, yeah, they made some specialty drinks as well. They had this one drink called a smoked R old fashioned, and if you're familiar with my Twitter persona, I had to get one of them, son. I was like, smoked in the name. Oh, this must be fate. And let me tell you, that old fashioned was fantastic. Highly recommend.
Was it the ice?
Yes, with the smoked ice. Oh man, and the smoky ice. And
so where are you recommending? This is at the Renaissance?
Yeah, I believe that's the hotel.
The Renaissance Orlando SeaWorld.
Bingo.
Wine bar.
Yeah. So highly recommend if you're ever in Orlando, stay there, get that drink. Or even just stop by the wine bar, have them make you one. Can't recommend enough. Mwah. Fantastic. I had only intended on having one drink that evening, but the old fashioned was so good that I eventually ended up having like 3 or 4. Anyway, more importantly, album was dope. He was just like man of the hour, doing it up, drinks for everybody. I mean, we kicked it. I also happened to meet at the meet and greet one of the co-founders of Buzzsprout. I believe his name is Tom Rossi. Amazing guy, let me tell you. So, like, think about, I don't know, how much money you might spend on at a restaurant over the course of years, like Chipotle or something, right? You spend all these thousands of dollars at the restaurant, and it's great. Like, they provide you with, a fantastic product, depending on whether or not you like Chipotle. Like, oh, this is great. I get to enjoy Chipotle. They get my money. Fantastic relationship. But no matter how much money you spend at Chipotle, what's never going to happen? Like the CEO of Chipotle, you're going to like sit down and talk to you for an hour. That's just never going to happen. Or, the co-founder of Chipotle, it's not going to happen. Well, I and another individual, a couple of individuals I met there who also have podcasts. I'll have to look them up and give them a shout out as well. Started a conversation with the co-founder of Buzzsprout, and he just talked to us for like an hour and a half. It was incredible. Like I like leaned over, 20 minutes in, I leaned over. I was like, hey, he's eventually going to get tired of us. And they giggled, and he never got tired of us. He just like talked to, like the entire time. We're like, oh my God, we're like sucking up this man's attention. Like, I can't believe, just giving us some insight and some advice, and asking us questions, and just regaling us with tales of his experience in the industry. It was great. Like, that's such an awesome dude. Wouldn't have been there if not for him and his company. So again, thanks, Tom, Albin. Y'all are awesome. Like, I appreciate it so much. Y'all are great.
Yay.
I say that like they're listening, but maybe they will. Who knows?
You never know. They might go through and listen to the people's pods that come and support, you know?
Absolutely.
In which case, I take it back. I think ordering 20 of the same drink makes it easier for the bartender instead of having to go back and forth, making the like different drink orders like like one after the other.
Yeah. Well, at least it was the same drink,
That's
but like
nice.
the
I would be so
mojito was
happy.
slightly more complicated. Yeah. But yeah, that was a great time. Like, man, and
I guess what I'm saying is I would like a margarita and a mojito and to be invited next year.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can't promise you Buzzsprout will be having us back on the house, but yeah, Ty, Carol, I'm sure we can definitely find us a conference to attend.
I'll use a fake name.
You know, it's not clandestine operations. We're not like counterintelligence agents. It's okay for you to use your name, although like I typically don't use mine for reasons. Just given how nasty and awful anyway. Look, I told you no news, no politics in this episode. I'm gonna stick to it. All right. So after Friday's events, as far as all the public speakers, and they were all, I got to tell you, a lot of them were amazing. One thing about being at a podcast expo, given that I don't have any experience public speaking or like media training or like communications experience, and I know like some of you out there are listening, like we know fucker, we can tell. It's like, oh, you just get impressed by people's like having so many people who are gifted speakers or accomplished speakers or, you know, accomplished podcast hosts, like get up and speak in front of you. It's like, it's inspiring.
Yeah. No, I get it.
It's like, while I'm clearly not as talented or as experienced as them, like I see a path to where like, oh, I could be like that. So it's, you know, it's good motivation and also great information and insight. Yeah. So after after all of the, you know, the speaking events on Friday, I had met this guy and two ladies host their own individual podcast. I find them to be quite insightful, actually. The name of their podcast is Sugar Coated on Apple and Spotify and other places, all one word. Check them out. Highly recommend them as well. Two young ladies of color, one Filipino and one black, I believe. Great girls. Also, another gentleman. Okay, hold on a second.
Well, anyway, another gentleman just stumbled away from the mic.
No, don't
and
worry.
Now he's back.
I'm gonna edit this part out. So, don't sweat.
My beautiful segue. I covered for you so good.
Well, I'm sorry.
I covered for you so good. Good.
I'm going
So
to edit that out. You know what? I'm going to leave that in now because you nailed it so much. All right. Another gentleman by the name of Delvacchio Brown. I met him as well. He's fairly popular on the social medias, the Instagrams and whatnot, and the YouTube. You know, we struck up a conversation, the four of us together, and he was like, "Oh, you know what? I was gonna have the ladies come record an episode of my show with me for me to film and put on YouTube." And it's like, "Oh, all right. Well, I'll tag along." So these ladies were talking about, you know, some of the issues they were dealing with of like, well, I mean, I guess some of the issues that we might all be dealing with of like depression and anxiety and this idea that we like might seem as though we're all well put together and we have these well manicured lives because, you know, the way social media is, everything is curated, you know, for certain appearances. And like you show the things you want to show and you don't show others. And she was like, they basically get into like their personal lives and their real life experience and how it's not nearly the same as how things are presented on social media. It was very, very insightful and heartwarming. And I mean, I got to tell you, I was not expecting them to be so great, but like, as I was listening to them, I was like, oh, this shit is kind of deep. My eye just teared up a little bit. So you go, girls. Y'all are doing a fantastic job. If you want to check them out, that's Sugar Coated Podcast again. So after the day's events and after that, they were like, hey, the guy was like, hey, you know, y'all going to the after party. I was like, huh, what after party? It's like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. Going to this bar. They got a bus. They're going to, you know, shuttle us from the hotel to this bar, Howl at the Moon, I believe it's called, just like some kind of dueling piano thing. and karaoke and whatnot.
Oh man, that sounds so fun.
Yeah, so
Right?
That's my jam.
he was like, you had to RSVP. I was like, oh shit, me and the ladies, we didn't RSVP. We don't know anything about this. I'm like, well, he was like, well, maybe you should just try and go anyway. So we're like, well, fuck, okay, I guess we can give it a shot. And we were talking about it, and I was like, I regaled them with this tale of a trip to Vegas where, and I won't get into too much detail about this, more than I can share in this episode, maybe one day, of how I ended up getting into one of the dopest clubs in Vegas on some like shenanigans. Like, I'm like, I don't even know how I managed to get in here, but I'm patting myself on the back. So I was like, oh, if I can do that, like we can easily do this thing in fucking like Orlando with some bar, like no problem. So he's got his wristband that allow you to get on the bus. So he's good to go. So we're like, talking amongst ourselves about like how we're going to figure out how to get on this thing. Like he knows someone who's working at the event. He's like, well, maybe they can get us one. So we go over to the line where people are about to line up to get on the buses, and the lady who's checking everyone's wristbands, she's like, all right, you got your wristbands? He's like, yeah, I got mine. She's like, all right, you hop on. Do you have your wristbands? And me and the ladies were like, nah. And she's like, well, sorry, you got to have your wristbands. You had to RSVP to get those. But then she was like, well, hold on, y'all just wait, and like maybe if we don't fill up on seats, we'll be able to let you, hop on, shuttle to the place or whatnot. So he hops on, and we're still waiting around. I'm like, damn, what we gonna do? But then he's like, oh shit, I ain't about to leave y'all. So he comes back off the fucking bus to chill with us and wait for us to see if we figure things out. Cause it's like, oh yeah, I want to be a good teammate. I was like, damn, bro, I appreciate that.
That was dope.
Yeah. So what happened was, like, this girl that he knew that worked there was about to come hop on the bus. He's like, oh, hey, blah, blah, blah. Do you have a couple wristbands for my friends here? And then she's like, oh, I got like 2 extras. Boom, here you go. So I was like, oh, ladies first. 2 wristbands for the ladies. All right, the dude's taken care of. Ladies are taken care of. All this, left to go is me. And I'm like, hey, man, if they got to roll out, y'all go ahead. It's all good. No problem. No biggie. And it's like, no, we're not going to do you like that. So we're like trying to figure out where we're going to get this last wristband from. Then this guy is walking towards the bus, about to get on, kind of flamboyant, fun guy. And it's like, oh, damn. It's like he's got 2 wristbands over there. Maybe we can get an extra. So we're like, hey, man, one guy didn't RSVP, got an extra wristband. And he looks and he takes the wristband. He's like, wristband? I fucking own the company. And then he took the wristband and hit my wrist, was like, boom. I'm like, woo.
Oh my God.
Like, oh, so he owns the company that like takes care of the buses and like
Oh, cool.
like plans events or whatever. And
Oh, what a fun weekend.
That's awesome.
yeah, so I was like, oh shit, son, party time. So we get on the bus, all 4 of us, and then we find our seats. I'm sitting in the back. So the dude who owns like the event company, he's like walking through the bus. He's got a giant bottle of Fireball whiskey. And he's like, shots for everyone. So he's like passing around cups and he's like pouring out shots. And he gets to me and pours me one. And like, woo, party time. Go. I'm like, I mean, and I was like, I didn't want to get too carried away. But like, after the dude was like, let me on his fucking bus to go to this party at this bar, I'm like, man, I got to, show my appreciation. So I'm like, thanks, bro, pour me a shot. And then he comes back around, like, and he's like, seconds. So he like takes the giant bottle of Fireball whiskey and he looks at me and I'm like, oh fuck, here we go. I hold up my cup and he like turns it and it's like, look, and fills it. And I'm like, oh my fucking God with this guy. Like, what are we doing here? And I'm like, cheers, bro. Yeah, so I knocked back that giant quadruple shot of Fireball. So I am lit. Let me tell you. I'm like, oh my God. But I'm gonna make the best of it. So we get to this bar and I believe it's called Howl at the Moon, if you'd like to look that up.
That's a piano bar.
Yeah. So we get to that bar and there's like there's a couple pianos and there's a drum set and there's like a guy hosting, and it's kind of like karaoke, except they play the songs themselves and they kind of go back and forth with different songs. Pretty good. And then like they played a few songs, and this one guy got up there and got on the guitar, and he was like jamming out. I was like, oh, this is some Van Halen type shit. This is fucking dope. So it's live in there. It is the shit. I gotta admit, it doesn't look. It's fine. It just looks like a bar with a stage in the middle, and it's kind of got like this upper deck that you can like take the stairs up to. Well, that part was roped off. It was VIP. But if you had your wristbands, they let you up there and you can do it up. So we'll get to the bar up there. I'm like, bartender's like, hey, what kind of drink would you like? I'm like, whiskey sour. Thank you, ma'am. Turn to the dude that had recorded, episode for his show, the two ladies earlier. Like, bro, what you want? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, make that 2 whiskey sours. He's like, all right. And she brings the drinks back, and I like hand her 100. And I'm like expecting some change. She puts it in the tip jar. I'm like, wait, what happened? Now I look at them, and they were giggling. They're like, ha, 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 ha. And I'm like, I don't know what the joke is. So I'm like, oh, excuse me, ma'am. I would like $80 back. And she just giggled. She was like, I was wondering why you gave me this. I'm like, so lost. It was open bar in that area, because if you were in the VIP, like the guy who ran it's like open bar. Drink up, bitches. So we're like giggling at my dumb ass because I'm like gave the bartender 100. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm such a doofus. But I'm like, oh, it's cool. And then I was like, you know what? Not only do you keep that 20, here's a little extra 10. You're working hard, busting your ass. Appreciate you. Yeah, that was cool. And then so we just like mingle throughout the night, have a good time, meet a bunch of people who were there for the event. A bunch of other podcasters and YouTubers and whatnot, just partying up, listening to some good music, great conversations. Although it's fairly loud out there. So I was hanging out on the patio, talking to some other people, and we've been there for a couple hours. Like, all right, bus is back, shuttle us back to the hotel. And turning to the people I was talking to, I'm like, hey, y'all heading back? And like, yeah, it's probably about that time. It's like, all right, I'm probably going to head back too. And then I'm like, yeah, before I leave, I don't want to leave, the people I came with. I don't want to tell them I'm heading back. So I run back in there, and I grab the people, and I'm like, hey guys, about to roll out. And I'm like, oh yeah, great. And then I run outside, and then like as I step to the door, like the bus is pulling off. So I'm like about to run. I'm like, fuck it. So I just go back inside. I'm like, because they were coming like on a, 30-minute. The buses were coming back every 30 minutes or so to shuttle us back to the. So I was like, fuck it, let's go back in time, party some more, woo, do it up. So by this time, it was like, fuck it, I'll get up there and do some karaoke. So I put my little song in. It's like, all right, let's go with some Marvin Gaye. And dude was like, oh yeah, blah blah blah. We'll keys it in. All right, I think we got it. It's like, we'll figure it out. It's like, grab the mic.
Oh, you could change the key. That's nice. That's some nice karaoke.
Well, I was like, hey, original key. He was like, whatever. That's not important. So I like slipped him a 20.
It's important to me.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt your story.
No, you're all good. Duly noted. I'll remember that key of G instead of key of F sharp for you next time we're singing Marvin Gaye at the karaoke bar. So I'm like, I grab the mic, I get on the stage, and it's like, boom, 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 boom. So I jump in. I'm like, I've been really trying, baby. So I do my little thing, and like, oh, people like, oh, someone actually good. So they like drop down to the dance floor, and then like, woo, doing. I'm like, all right, this is okay. Like for me, it was like not great because my voice was clearly shot after like drinking a gallon of whiskey, and I was like, hey, if these people like it, fine, whatever. So, and then yeah, so let's get it on. Yeah, anyway, and then like, oh, the dancing, doing I'm finished. I'm like, oh, everybody's like, yeah, woo.
I want to hear lit dance.
Oh yeah, it's wild. And then like, apparently there had been like a number of poor karaoke singers in a row because like a lady came up to me. No, it was a dude. It might have been a dude. I don't even remember. I hadn't had too much to drink. I just will readily admit that. Someone came up to me and was like, oh, you redeemed us. Like, you saved the night. I was like, damn, it wasn't even that good for me. I was like, this is pretty garbage for me. But they're like, yeah, woo. And I was like, all right, party time. And then like, last bus came, so I grabbed the girls and the dude. I was like, let's get out of here, get on this bus. We don't need.
I need whoever was there to leave. the video, please.
Fun times, man. I had a great time. That was a wonderful experience, man. I hadn't look, given
just email that to pardontheinsurrection@gmail.com.
Carol, no one who's listening to this has the video.
D, send me the password for the email account. Thanks.
You went there and talked about your podcast. D.
I'm gonna be honest, like
And
even
he's like, no one listens to this. You went to a podcast.
No, I'm saying no one who was there who had video of it is probably listening to this. Like it was packed when we got there, but by the time I got up there, like it had cleared out slightly.
Do you have a friend who was at the podcast convention in Orlando last weekend? Do they know the host of this show? If so, ask them to send their video.
All right, the black guy
singing "Let's Get It On."
The black guy singing Marvin Gaye, like hard to miss in Orlando.
Orlando.
No, it was fun times, man. I hadn't been to. Well, given the pandemic, the last couple of years, I haven't done anything like that in such a long time. It was a pleasure. I had a good time. Let's see, what else did we have going on there? Oh, so it's funny I mentioned singing. So, they had a setup where you could set up like various booths and stands or whatnot and hawk your product or your service or whatever. Like Buzzsprout also had one of these where they would talk to potential customers and tell them about the company and the services they offer, blah, blah, blah. It was all great. Well, there's one company there, Shure. They make high quality microphones. So I was over there trying out some of the equipment, testing it out. And the guy was like, oh yeah, here, like try this one. I was like, oh yeah, man. Thinking about getting that one. That one sounds really good. It's like, yeah, what about singing? It's like, oh yeah, well this one is mostly for like specifically designed for spoken word. This is a Shure MV7 in case you're wondering what kind of particular microphone that is. For all of you who weren't wondering about that, I'm sorry about nerding out. Anyway, he's like, try this other one. Oh, it's really great for singing. And he, I'm sure he was just trying to kind of sell me his shit. But I was like, oh, check it out. So I'm like, I won't go over there. I'm like, oh, I do kind of like the sound on this one because I had like tested it out the day before. I was like very interested in these microphones. Sorry for nerding out. I was like, oh yeah, well, bust a little jam. So that, a lady who was also listening to the various microphones was like, all right, I'll try it out. So, she puts on her headphones. The dude grabs his headphones because it's in like an audio mixer. They have like multiple different microphones plugged up to a mixer so you can kind of test out the sound quality. You can hear it through the headphones really clearly. So I'm like, jump on the thing. I'm like, hey, what do y'all like? Because it's like, do you like nursery rhymes? If the two of you may not remember, I sung that nursery rhyme for you.
Yes, of course I remember.
So it's like, oh yeah, I got a good one for you. It's like a nursery rhyme, but I'll make it sound romantic. And they're like, oh yeah, really? It's like, all right. And I jump into Mary, Mary, quite contrary. How does your garden grow? And they were like, oh shit, that's pretty good. And I just like do the thing. And then the Shure guy looks at the mixer and like he hits record. It's pretty fucking good. So I was like, I did it. I'm so good. The Shure guy's like, yeah, I'm gonna take that shit home. Play that.
Christopher said that your singing is interesting.
Oh, thank you, sir. I appreciate that compliment. The Shure microphone guy felt a similar way. I was like, damn, I know it's good when he hits record because I was like, he's had people in there all day. I'm sure he ain't hit record one time. And that's pretty fucking funny. And then like the lady who was also interested in purchasing a microphone, she was like, oh my God, that was so good. I was like, oh yeah, girl, throw your panties at me. I was like, no, I'm just kidding. And she was like, got a good laugh out of that. And I was like, nah, well, if you really want to, it was like, just don't tell your husband. And he was like standing right there. So they got a good giggle out of that. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. He's hot. You can bring him too. And he was like, woo, everybody's laughing. The Shure dude is cracking up. Like the lady's halfway on the floor. And the dude, I'm like, what? Anyway, we were having a good time. It was a great time. Great event. Shout out to the Shure guy. I'm going to pick up one of your classic SM7Bs, studio or industry standard, rather. I'm probably sure the Shure guy isn't listening to this shit either. But yeah, it was like, just like, I don't know. It was a great experience. Every day was great. There was always something interesting or informative or entertaining going on. Everyone I met there was great. So many great people who were doing great podcasts that you might not ever even get to hear about unless you like unless you'd met them at the event. So I'm thankful for all of that. It was a great time. Again, wouldn't have had the opportunity to even attend the event if not for Buzzsprout. So, again, shout out to you guys. Appreciate that. Let's see. What else can I talk about that these people might find interesting?
I bought a Dyson Airwrap. I know everyone wants to hear about that.
Okay, congratulations.
Been coveting one.
Your hair's going to be beautiful.
And then I was like, how am I going to get one? And I'm like, this sucks. They're so expensive. And then I was like, fuck this, man. I'm a lawyer. I want to spend some money on myself. I don't make like that much money for a lawyer, but I'm like, man, I got like, I can buy myself one thing. What the fuck?
Carol, so eventually when we expand our podcast empire to multiple podcasts that don't make any money, you're going to have your own show with your own co-host as a lawyer, and the title of the podcast is going to be entitled Fuck It, I'm a Lawyer. It's going to be incredible.
Fuck it, I'm a lawyer.
But yeah, your hair looks amazing. I can see you in the Zoom. People out there, in case you can't see it, Carol's got a little bouncy curl action. It's a podcast. I'm aware. Like that's not how this works. It's not a visual medium. Yeah, Carol's got some bouncy curls going on. I have a little tighter curls going on. You probably can't see it in my crappy Zoom camera.
My kids ate 3 pizzas.
Well, they're growing kids. That or they may have the munchies.
It's like
they've been in your stash.
What size pizzas?
large.
Yo, what is going on here?
Did your kids and their friends? Like, is your daughter and her boyfriend there?
Yeah,
or just your sons?
They snuck the boyfriend into
My
that.
daughter and my boyfriend and my sons. But it is
Okay, so
it is a
4.
thinner crust.
Yeah.
So it's not, I guess, not as full of dough.
Yeah, that's
I
fair.
don't feel
The thin crust pizza is not quite as filling.
But because I started getting 3 because I know like Christopher could almost eat 1 bite. But I think that they make them a little bit smaller than like a chain large than like a Pizza Hut.
Oh, you
Or
think
the
so?
Hooters large. I think like how Little Caesars, their pizza is technically a large, but it's a little bit smaller than their $5 pizza.
Ty, stop it. You're making me hungry. Like I'm starving now.
I would like a pizza as well.
Oh my
Like,
God.
still
Well,
have any more
that's
fries?
Carol,
And
that's
it's
because you're high.
It's $2 on Tuesdays. A large
What?
pizza is $2. As
That
long
is-
as you buy a drink. So I get a root beer.
I mean, this
$13 for 3 pizzas and a 2-liter root beer.
this sounds like $2 or 25-cent beer night or something. Like I can't imagine the clientele there. What kind of ruckus that must be.
It's become our Tuesday thing, Pizza Tuesdays.
You know what happened? They were like, we got to find a way to compete with Taco fucking Tuesday. It's killing the entire industry. Like
But the
pizza's
thing-
dead. And like, we got it. $2 Tuesday. Get you a large for
Nobody's out
$2.
here though, like where I
Yeah.
live. We don't have anywhere. So when you don't have to worry about all the fees for freaking Pizza Hut and
Right.
Domino's,
No, that's dope. Now I'm jealous. We don't have anything. You can't get anything for $2 where I live. Not even a whore. Sorry. No offense to whores out there. Like I'm pro whore.
Is that still a thing?
Well,
Like,
I'm not personally purchasing your services, but I'm pro sex worker is what I'm trying
but
to say.
is it still a thing?
What, $2 whores?
what?
No, I seriously.
Well, of course.
Inflation.
Is, yeah.
Jinx, Carol.
Well, I meant the hookers, like the ones that walk the street.
Ty, I don't know. I'm not familiar with the industry to that degree. Like I don't partake. Plus I'm broke. Like if I want to get, engage in sexual activities, someone's just going to have to love me for me. No, I don't know. Matt Gaetz would know all about the prostitution industry. Look, damn it. I said I wasn't going to talk politics. Scratch that. But I mean,
No,
I'm
that's
not.
just that's just gossip.
That's gossip.
This is tea.
It's not gossip. I saw the Venmo payments. Okay. No one's paying $1,000 for ice cream, and like the $700 he paid for, like it literally said ass.
But there's nothing that says gossip isn't true. I'm just saying this is like
It's
This isn't the political aspect of the story. This is
Oh my God, do you guys think that
Yeah.
Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz have slept together?
no, she's too old for him.
You think so?
You beat me to it. Oh man, I was
Sorry.
so ready.
I'm too old for him. I'm his age. His wife is too old for him.
Yeah, it's like the Leonardo DiCaprio thing where like every time the girl turns, 26 or something, he dumps her. Except like Gates is like, oh, she had her sweet 16. I'm out. Too old.
Oh, that would be such a
Ugh.
cool screenplay.
Oh. All right, I took that in a dark. We went down a dark path. I'm sorry.
Went down a dark path.
Yeah. Any questions you two have for me about the event? If there was anything you wanted to hear about?
Yeah, on the way there, did you make your flight? Did you get on your flight okay?
So anyway, is there anything you would like to hear about, Ty? Okay, so what happened was at the airport on the way there, I was like, oh yeah, I'm like an hour early. I'm like through security with an hour to go. All good. I'm gonna stop and grab some food real quick because I was like starving. It's like, oh yeah, you know what? I'll have a beer as well. And then the next thing you know, I'm like, wait, it's time to run down to the terminal because they're probably about to close this fucking gate. Oh, so I'm like running through like the terminal trying to get there, like through the food court to the terminal to the gate. I'm like, oh yeah, I made it. And I'm like, hey, aren't you like still 15 minutes to go? Plane's not. And then like, we're sorry, sir, we closed it. I'm like, what the? Are you kidding me, man? Like, it's okay. We got you. Just sit tight. We'll take care of you. We'll get you on the next flight. So that was fine. I just had to wait 2 hours, but that was one of the
2 hours isn't too bad. That's not too bad.
It's fine. Like, that was the one thing Spirit got right. They took care of me.
I was just gonna ask you that. Like, were you on the same airline?
Yeah, they got me there. And they didn't lose my luggage. It was there waiting for me with their like luggage reception area. So like I had an attendant. It was roped off. You just go talk to the attendant and tell them, hey, show them your ticket. And they're like, all right, grab your stuff. So it was there. You didn't lose my luggage. So you know what? I take back some of the horrible things I said about you earlier, Spirit. You're not completely terrible. But like, for God's sake, man, you gotta have a fucking electrical outlet on your planes. Like, it's 2023. Everyone in the world has an electronic device. If it's not a phone or a laptop or a vibrator or something, you gotta have something where you can plug in your shit if you're gonna be on a fucking 2 hour. Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize.
What kind of plane was it? Was it a 737?
I forgot the tube. It was a long tube. There's not no. It's not like
I think that's what they. I think that's so.
Yeah, not ideal. Come on, guys, you got to do better than this. Get off the plane. Your phone's dead. And you're like, oh fuck, because no one like rents cars anymore. Like we all Uber. Well, I mean, I guess people do rent cars, but like you can't get your Uber with your phone dead.
Yeah, that's.
It's like hunt it down a taxi or whatever. But yeah, that's something to improve on for the future. You guys, get it together. You got a jet plane engine. I'm pretty sure can power a few people's electronic devices. It's not too much to ask. But again, my check bag was more expensive than my flight, so keep that in mind.
But at least your luggage wasn't lost. So
nah, they took care of my stuff. I mean, granted, they only had to hold on to it for like 2 hours, so no big deal there. Yeah, Ty, anything you wanted to ask about?
No, it sounded like you had a great time.
Oh man, I did. The only thing is that I miss you guys so much, and I wish you were there.
Oh, I wish I was there too.
Oh, well, and that's another thing. So it was Orlando. It's Florida. So like with a podcast about politics, and people ask like, "Oh, so do you have a podcast?
What do you do?"
So it's like, oh, I'm like, oh, like I want to dance around the subject because it's entirely possible. Like, who knows? How these people lean politically. There's no fucking telling.
Exactly.
Like, I don't want to get shot at the expo for being like, yeah, fuck Trump, fuck, doing that. But I'm like, oh yeah. So, I have podcast. I have two co-hosts who do the show with me, and it's politically oriented. That was like my way of kind of like dancing around the subject. You'd be like, oh yeah, that's very interesting. What's it called? And be like, oh, it's called Pardon the Insurrection, which Which, if you think about it, in Florida is great because it's like, oh, it could go either way. Like, they could be like, Republican, where they're like, it wasn't even an insurrection. Everyone deserves pardons. But clearly we're like we want lock them fuckers up, please. Thank you, sir. Merrick Garland, while you have been lacking in the department of like putting the principals involved in this in jail, I mean, you locking them other motherfuckers up at a impressive rate, considering everyone got to leave the building on the day of. Anyway, that aside, but yeah, it's like I do my little pitch and I'm like, oh yeah. And then like what really got people was like, oh yeah. And my co-hosts, they're both women. And they're like, oh really? Because apparently that's interesting. For people out there who are, fans of our podcast, but not particularly of the industry in general, you don't consume a lot of podcasts. There's a lot of broadcasts out there. There's a bunch of dudes just doing their dude shit. So when I'm like, oh yeah, my co-hosts, they're women. Because, again, we're on the Twitter. And one of the things we regularly talk about is like diversity and inclusion and being like, as well as, race and gender inclusion. So, having a chance to tell people like, my co-hosts are women. And then I go into my little spiel about how much better than me you two are. I'm like, yeah, like one of my co-hosts is Jewish and she's a lawyer. She's very, very intelligent and insightful. And my other co-host is like a writer. She's, involved in journalism. She, has multiple books published. Like, she's a great storyteller and an engaging individual. And I'm like, and then there's my dumbass. And then everyone giggles at that. Yeah. So that was great. Getting to sing the praises for you two to other people was very rewarding because I wouldn't be doing this without you two. And I wouldn't have been there without your contributions for sure. I probably wouldn't. This podcast would be like, discontinued if not for the wonderful things that you two bring to the podcast. And again, let me thank you both from the bottom of my heart. I can't tell you how great it is to be working with two great, wonderful women like you. I appreciate that you take the time out of your week to come do this with me, this endeavor that you're not being compensated for because our podcast has no budget. Sponsors, but we're open to suggestions if you'd like to contribute to the show. Anyway,
start OnlyFans.
Ty, you're more suited for that
with screenshots from the recordings.
Yeah,
Ty standing up, click. Boobies.
I was reading this article about Taiwanese man who started a Pornhub account, and he makes
this guy, man,
$50,000 a year teaching math.
Right, it's wild, but like you'll have like the girl in the background doing the little shit. Oh my god. Yeah.
Oh, there's some porn aspect to it.
Yeah, there's like a pretty girl off to the side and like doing the chalkboard and shit. It's like a classroom.
But is she naked?
No.
Scantily clad.
When I worked at AEBN, I saw some really strange fetish porn.
Girl, we're not putting this in the podcast.
Wow, so somebody could think someone teaching math was sexy, I guess. There's some strange fucking people out there. There is balloon porn where
no.
It's just girls in bikinis and they just sit on balloons until they pop.
Oh, that's some weird shit.
And then they show their butt is red. Like, that's the whole thing. That's the whole kink. And then there's pedal porn. And it's this girl with nice feet revving the car engine. And just her foot going up and down on the pedal. Vroom, vroom. That's a whole porn subset.
Okay, we're like...
Did you guys see that my bowl light on fire and there was just like an open flame while I was watching the podcast instead of the pipe?
No, I totally missed that. I'm so sorry.
I still have eyebrows a little bit, right? Yeah, okay, we're good.
Yeah. Yes, you still have eyebrows.
Yeah, again,
don't do that if you're on oxygen.
For anyone listening, clearly watching a podcast is impossible. I mean, I guess unless you're on YouTube. No, we have a Zoom window open where we can all see each other. She was like Carol was involved in watching us. Apparently we're so spectacularly engaging that she can't even focus on firing up her bowl.
Don't worry, my hair is fine, aside from that slight bong water smell from earlier.
Oh boy.
Yeah, those things happen. You know, it's, unfortunately, you know, when you're lit off the ganja, things can happen with bong water. But yeah, let me get back to kissing your asses.
This
for a
thing
moment.
is very tippy ovary. It's just
Oh,
it's not well made. I didn't pick a good one. It's
Okay,
pretty, but
I'll skip the part where I'll continue kissing your asses. No, look, all right, Carol, let's put her ass in the Zoom camera for me to.
I thought you were
Hey,
rubbing
now.
a bottle on the microphone.
yeah, it's the microphone. The camera's too far from the. There was no butt to microphone contact. I'm not going ass to mouth on my own microphone. No.
If I was
Alrighty.
Omar, I would do that to Kevin's gavel. Oh, that would be beautiful.
Y'all are spectacular.
And if I was Ilhan Omar, I'd do that. Rub my ass all over Kevin's gavel before a session. That
Well,
would
you know that's probably what Kevin's into. So
That's true.
Yeah.
I would be that's a
you know
straight-
the people who are always like the most, well, I guess we can say it, racist, also have like that fetish thing that they like to engage in with. Anyway, apart from that, so I know I pitched the idea of this podcast to you two, but I just want to say again that like getting to do this every week with you two, it's an opportunity for me. So I appreciate you very much. And I guess for my closing thoughts, I mean, I don't know how familiar you are, listeners, with all the crazy, insane events going on in the world. Things can be rather dark and depressing. With all the shootings and the violence and just the crazy insanity. You know, sometimes you take a look at the world and you're like, oh, it's so dark. You might want to just let this shit burn and just burn it all down. Who the fuck cares? But then I, open up the Twitter, see you guys. So many of you are just so warm and encouraging and caring and thoughtful. My co-hosts here, Carol and Ty, amazing individuals, one of a kind. And you go to Podfest, you meet so many incredible, thoughtful people, creative and insightful. Buzzsprout, like just a company that's just, trying to do good things in their industry, kind enough to go out of their way to invite you to, an event like this and make you feel warm and welcome. It's people like that, people like my co-host, people like you listening, that make me feel like the world is worth saving. I don't know how much of an effect I can have on the world. There's so many massive problems, so many systemic issues that we're all faced with every single day. You can be elected president of the United States and have, all the power behind you of the greatest country in the world, and you still can't solve all the problems. So sometimes it feels rather hopeless, but that doesn't mean it's not worth trying. And I'm not sure how much I can fix, but I feel like it's worth giving it my best shot. And this is one of the ways that I'm trying to go about creating some positive change in the world. And maybe if we all come together and do our part, and enough of us invest our energies in just making the world a little bit better, one piece at a time, we can actually fix some things. And that concludes this episode of Pardon the Insurrection.